Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the Render Network, a very ambitious project that's aiming to take care of the graphics side of the metaverse by using blockchain to connect idle graphics processors, such as the one sitting on my gaming laptop here, to users across the world who would love to use them for their rendering jobs. Now, a large portion of the underlying technology has already been developed and is in fact already industry-leading technology in the creative and entertainment industries. The team has partnerships with giants such as Adobe, Apple, HBO, Marvel Studios, DC Comics, Warner Brothers, and so on. And the team has a list of influential advisors, including Hollywood director J.J. Abrams. In fact, the founder and CEO Jules Urbach is a computer graphics and 3D rendering pioneer, whose companies have gone on to win Oscars for their innovative technologies. And I gotta tell you, Urbach was talking about the metaverse way before it became fashionable. Speaking of the metaverse, the team's end goal is to build a core set of underlying technologies for the $8 trillion metaverse industry as a whole, where games, 3D assets, NFTs, and entire metaverses can be rendered in real time by GPU assets spread across the world, including my little beast here, all connected by blockchain. It's very exciting stuff. Now, in this video, we're going to look at the interesting history behind the project, where it fits in metaverse investing, and why it ticks a number of boxes for startup investing. Now, if this sounds interesting to you, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe to help me grow this channel, help me spread the word. Without further ado, let's dive on in. Okie dokie, so the team is working on democratizing GPU cloud rendering on the blockchain, connecting people who need to render stuff to idle graphics processors sitting around the world who are available to render these jobs. Now, each of these GPUs will be using the team's industry-leading OctaneRender engine, which is established technology that's become a bit of a Hollywood staple. Now, where does the render token come in? Well, these rendering jobs, which are coordinated on the blockchain, are paid for using the render token, which creates real utility for the cryptocurrency. Now, at the moment, the current state of things, we are focusing on non-streaming rendering, otherwise known as pre-rendering. So what this means is that 2D and 3D assets that need to be rendered are rendered in advance as opposed to in real time. So take, for example, the pre-rendering of a 3D asset in every light and angle before being exported, pre-rendering of NFTs in advance of the sale or auction. But you know, pre-rendering, it's not that helpful for the metaverse, right? If we're talking about an interactive virtual world, we're really looking at real-time streaming, and that requires a ton of power, which is why the team is so keen to harness the power of idle GPUs on a global scale. In fact, to leverage the most cutting-edge technology possible, the team has continually migrated their OctaneRender tech to faster and more scalable protocols over time, from Ethereum and then to Polygon, and now they're migrating to Solana. I've got a great deep dive video on Solana, which I'll link above. Okay, so now that we know real-time rendering and streaming is the end goal, what does that mean for the future exactly? Well, number one, we're looking at the real-time streaming for AR and VR worlds. As I discuss later, this means the Render Network is going to embed itself as core infrastructure for the metaverse industry. Very exciting stuff. Number two, they're going to be able to render NFTs on-chain, right? Render NFTs on the blockchain. So in fact, in the future, many are hoping that we can hopefully do kind of everything on the blockchain and be less reliant on centralized services. Number three, there's going to be a ton of niche use cases, including many yet to be discovered. Right? The team has already discussed things like holographic displays, hybrid AR, VR use cases with your iPhone and iPad, digitally archiving assets, which is what they're doing with Star Trek IP right now. And finally, number four, we're going to have new digital economies, right? So instead of Bitcoin or Ethereum mining farms, we might see the establishment of GPU farms ran by ordinary people like you and me, right? Who can make a passive income by providing our GPU, our idle GPU resources to other users on the blockchain on the Render Network. Now, the founder of the Render Network and its wider ecosystem is Jules Urbach, right, who's a well-known pioneer in computer graphics, streaming, and 3D rendering, who has more than 25 years of industry experience. Now, he founded two major companies, right? The first one of which is Lightscape, who has won Oscars for their work in Hollywood. The company's worked on productions including Avatar, Benjamin Button, and Spider-Man. Now, the second company Urbach founded was Otoy, I hope I pronounced that correctly, under which two separate technologies, OctaneRender and the Render Network, sits. Now, what do each of these do? Well, in a nutshell, let's say you have some 2D or 3D asset that you want rendered. Right, so you submit a job on the render network, right, who then puts you in contact with someone like myself who has available GPU compute resources. My GPU will then use the OctaneRender software to render the job, and then I'll receive payment from you in the form of render tokens. So OctaneRender is the engine, right? The special software developed by Urbach's team that GPUs actually use to render the job. Now on release, OctaneRender was actually the world's first and fastest GPU accelerated physically correct renderer, right? That renders photorealistic images orders of magnitude faster than previous renderers. Now, this was revolutionary at the time because before OctaneRender, to render a film like, say, Avatar, right, or Transformers, you had to use extremely expensive VFX studios, right? Something that required directors like James Cameron and Michael Bay to mobilize multi-million-dollar budgets from production studios. Then OctaneRender came along and allowed ordinary people to leverage commodity hardware, right? Basically off-the-shelf NVIDIA GPUs ordinary people like you and I may own to get the job done cheaper and in fact, way quicker. OctaneRender is now a staple in the creative and entertainment industries, having worked with a number of major creative and entertainment partners, including productions from Marvel, HBO, Warner Brothers, and so on. Now, after OctaneRender came out, the question kind of evolved to, well, how do we source all of these GPUs that we need to use in parallel to do all these render jobs? Well, initially, OctaneRender uses hired GPUs from cloud providers, right, such as NVIDIA themselves, Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, these kinds of centralized providers, big tech, right, who then took a cut of the profits when you hire their GPUs. But then Jules Urbach realized something interesting as he explained at the recent Solana conference.
The reason why we have so much rendering power is that a lot of miners bought GPUs 4 years ago to mine Ethereum, and then that stopped making money. What we do is we take the cost of $1 of rendering on Amazon, and we pay out either $1 or half a dollar or a quarter of that for the same amount of work on the render network.
In other words, thanks to a bunch of Ethereum miners running out of Ethereum to mine, Jules Urbach had the idea, hey, why don't we cut out the middlemen? Like Google, like Amazon, like NVIDIA, and use the blockchain to connect a global network of idle GPUs that weren't being used to users who desperately wanted to leverage them. Right, so on-demand GPU rendering using a peer-to-peer network, where the profits stay within the pockets of the network to individual users rather than go to some big tech company. And so that gave birth to the Render network, right? The blockchain solution that connects idle GPUs to users, each of the GPUs using OctaneRender to render their jobs. So in summary, the Render network is basically a decentralized way to coordinate render jobs on a global scale using the well-established and industry-leading OctaneRender engine. Bye-bye Amazon, Google, and NVIDIA. Hello blockchain. And this is where the render token comes in. Rendering jobs are paid for using the render token, and so the idea is as the industries requiring mass rendering scale up, demand for the render token will hopefully scale up, right? Market cap goes up, token price goes up, investors are happy. Okay, so not financial advice, but why am I quite bullish on Render as a long-term investment? Well, investing in startups, you usually want to run the company, the team, what they're building through some key criteria to see if it's worth your time and money. So number one, is there a working prototype? Well, yes, the rendering engine OctaneRender is an established industry leader, right, with a number of small to high profile projects under its belt across the creative and entertainment industries. Meanwhile, if we look at the Render network, which is the newer blockchain solution that connects users and idle GPUs, that already has 10,000 active users and is growing. In fact, out of interest, the very first commercial job on the Render network was for the creator of Photoshop, John Knoll. Number two, is the technology scalable, right? A crucial question you have to ask if you want to see mass adoption. Well, absolutely. The Render network provides a core infrastructure service for a number of industries and use cases, and that includes the $8 trillion metaverse industry, right? That's just getting off the ground at the moment. Now, within the metaverse industry, if we narrow down the use case to just rendering gaming assets alone, well, you're already looking at a huge market as we have almost 3 billion gamers on the planet. Number three, market cap. Right, so the third question is, does the Render token have a scalable market cap? Right? Remember, the smaller the market cap relative to the size of the market it's trying to address, the more room there is for percentage price appreciation, which is ultimately what investors tend to care about. Right now, Render only has a $700 million market cap, right? That's a small cap altcoin. Compare that to tokens like Sandbox or Decentraland, which have market caps an order of magnitude higher, not to mention the extra risk of investing in individual metaverses rather than a piece of technology that benefits the entire industry. Right? Now this brings me to my fourth point. Is Render a core asset for the industries that it sits in? So for example, does Render build crucial infrastructure for the metaverse if we're looking at the metaverse industry? Is it building core technology? Well, the answer is absolutely. Render is what I like to call a picks and shovels investment. Let me explain. In the gold rush era, anybody can go hunting for gold. You can go hunting for gold, I can go hunting for gold. But whether or not we find any gold, picks and shovels will always fly off the shelf because they are a core tool set that's used by everybody. Similarly here, the Render network provides a core underlying tool set for the metaverse industry as a whole, and other industries as well, like the creative and entertainment industries, including Hollywood and so on. So the success of this project is intrinsically tied to the success of the metaverse industry as a whole and all the other industries that this project plays in. This makes Render a fundamentally less risky investment compared to investing in, say, individual games and metaverses, such as the Sandbox or Decentraland. Nothing against them, I think they're fantastic projects, but many of these gaming tokens, they're not going to survive in the long run. But hey, if you have a picks and shovels investment, you're going to survive as long as the industry survives. And if the industry thrives, well, your project is going to thrive as well. Finally, at number 5, does Render have a moat? In other words, is Render the dominating pioneer in the space, or are they crammed into a market full of other competitors, right, who are putting on the squeeze and hey, might even push them out of business in the future? Well, you don't have to worry. The Render network and its wider ecosystem is pretty much the market leader in what they are trying to do. In fact, they are, well, kind of like the only show in town without any real competitors, which is something that should make investors quite happy. So in summary, we have several parts to an in-demand ecosystem that's being developed by a terrifically visionary team. Firstly, we've got idle GPUs sitting on computers all around the world that's not being utilized. And then we've got OctaneRender, which is the GPU rendering software that's already a market leader and working for places like Hollywood. You've got the Render network, which connects idle GPUs with users on the blockchain, right? And it's already got over 10,000 users. And then you've got the Render token, which is used to pay for these services. Importantly, this project sits in a wide range of industries and addresses a wide range of use cases. For the metaverse industry, the goal is to become a core underlying asset, right, for the entire $8 trillion industry, helping to render gaming, 3D assets, NFTs, entire metaverses, and so on, all in real time, which is very exciting stuff. And with all of that said, the Render token is still borderline medium small cap right now, right? Less than $1 billion market cap, which means huge room for price appreciation in the future. Not financial advice, but I think this is a great long-term hold. All right, everyone, we'll leave it there. Right? What do you think? Are you feeling bullish on Render? Is there anything you agree or disagree with? I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. All right, everyone, have a great day or evening wherever you are, and I shall see you in the next one.